And now for something completely different. Although this is the DevOps day, I've actually decided to give Rick a bit of a coffee break, and also I want the numbers to go up on this day. So what we thought we'd do is we'd do some stuff about something that's really interesting.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm joined by my very good friend, Amy Nicholson, and we're going to be talking about IoT in, well, actually 45 minutes.
Yeah, we haven't got quite as long as an hour, so we'll double check that one.
So Amy, what do you do? Who are you?
So my name's Amy Nicholson. I'm a technical evangelist at Microsoft, so I work with yourself, Andrew, and I'm focusing a lot at the moment on data science and the Internet of Things. And they are huge words. They're not empty. I don't want to ever say that they're huge buzzwords or anything, but huge areas of technology that are some really interesting stuff going on.
Okay, so, and you've got some stuff as well, and we've got some slides.
Not only do we have the humans, we also have the machines. So we've brought a device along with us, and hopefully we're going to do a quick demo. I want to show people how they can start to build as well with this kind of stuff, and what really the key scenarios are in that.
Okay then.
So if we go with building an IoT service in an hour, like I said, we want people to do that. So what is the Internet of Things? Everyone starts with that piece. You can't really start a presentation without it. The Internet of Things, it's, like I said, this huge word in technology at the moment. We've kind of gone from internet connected computers. We're now starting to connect ourselves. I actually don't have my band on, and neither do you. We're starting to measure, things from ourselves that were not measurable before. And actually, then it kind of moves on maybe to this third phase of the Internet of Things, where we're trying to connect all sorts of different things around us. And we'll talk about a few customer scenarios as we move on. This side, I found this sort of summary piece, this nice little sort of abstract for it. And it says, the Internet of Things is a network of physical computers, physical objects that contain embedded technology. Totally agree, you can't disagree with that. But this part of the sentence is really what I really connected with in the Internet of Things. And I think those verbs to communicate and sense or interact with our internal states or external environment. So, being able to actually take what they give us, all these little devices, this stream of raw data, and actually be able to say, well, what can we do with that? Whether that is a band that we're wearing or a device that's monitoring the environment, for example, actually being able to do that sort of bi-directional idea. So this is driven by data, really. And we obviously always like to talk about data, but really it's completely driven by data. And the IoT idea, the Internet of Things, is about the whole end-to-end, I always think. So not maybe just which device you're using, which operating system you're using, but actually what comes from that device, these ones and zeros, this idea of raw, messy data normally. But then what can we do from it there? How do we make it useful? So talking about data, the world's data is growing out of control, and we all know that. But before the 90s, it was very much analog. Books, records, all sorts of things. 90s, it took off. That was my kind of childhood. Loads of things like CDs, DVDs, and I show my age there. And then actually, we started to really boom. Digital data just went massive. And it started to become internet connected, meaning that data then had an IP address. We were starting to look at client-server computing, stuff like that. It's a really big area.
I think the other thing was also we came into this as a location. We knew not only there was a device, but we also, with GPS becoming available to everybody, we knew where that device was, or where we were, or where our phone is, and so on. I think that's huge as well.
I was going to say, and one of the main points about Internet of Things being popular right now, right, is bringing together all this stuff, not just the devices that we can buy for, slightly less expensive than they used to be, but actually we take for granted in the place we live in the world of actually being able to connect to the Internet so very easily, which is an interesting one. So where are we now? It's estimated we have about 10 zettabytes, is it, of data, something like that. It's huge amounts, basically.
How many zeros is that now?
I have no idea how many zeros and ones that is, but a whole lot of it. And actually, a lot of that is now sitting in the cloud. So cloud computing, we've been talking about it a lot over the last few days, is huge. PC and mobile, and a lot of that is connected. It's estimated in the future that this will only grow even more, and one of the main growth points around this data will be part of the Internet of Things mobile applications and cloud applications. So, kind of emphasizing that point that Internet of Things is driven by data, but actually being able to think about that whole end-to-end. What is the idea? What is the data? How do we analyse it? And what do we get out of it? I think is the key thing here.
It's a cow.
It's a huge cow on the screen, but don't worry. I can imagine a lot of people have heard this story, the connected cow story. I wanted to go through a few customer scenarios, some of our customers who are actually working around the area of the Internet of Things, and actually all the different domains that they come from. So the connected cow, starting with farming, literally being able to, not having a fancy device, it didn't really come, it's a pedometer, really. You know, it was counting steps. It wasn't measuring everything that moved, it was just counting exactly one thing. But actually for them to be able to analyse what that cow was doing, how many steps they were taking, they were able to find all sorts of insights, right?
Apparently when cows are ready to make other cows, they walk a lot more.
Yes,
how it works. And then if we also know the temperature, we can actually work out whether we're going to get a cow or a bull out of the process that makes other cows.
Yeah, and I mean, that is a farmer's business though, right? Being able to control that kind of thing is unbelievable.
And not somewhere you'd normally associate perhaps with high technology either.
No, not, you know, and it's really great story. What a fantastic way to use this technology. But not just the farming industry, we know about ThyssenKrupp with their lifts, so being able to get sensors, all the sensors on these lifts, and start to do predictive and preemptive maintenance on it. Again, saving them not just time, money, efficiency, customer satisfaction. I mean, they have their lifts in some of the tallest buildings in the world, and you know, for their customers to be stuck on the ground floor when they need to get to the 33rd floor or something like that is. That's not going to make anyone happy, right?
We swapped out the lifts here and we got rid of one lift, and even then the queues were backing up, weren't they?
Chaos, wasn't it?
Chaos.
So that's what, like maintenance, manufacturing kind of stuff. But it can even be useful in science. So we have the Connected Particle Accelerator as an example. SLAC from Stanford University, they have their huge particle accelerator, and it's all about keeping that beam up. It's got to be there 24 hours a day. And people are betting some really big science experiments on this kind of stuff. And you know, if it goes down, they lose out. There might be, you know, really important stuff going on that they can't figure out.
I think the other area as well is citizen science.
Absolutely.
You know? So everybody's going to have a device in their home, maybe monitoring the environment. I know the US Geological Survey. You can subscribe and you can have essentially a seismometer in your basement. And if we've got that array of sensors over the whole of, say, North American continent, that's like a massive detector showing us what the internal structure of the Earth is like. So and everybody can get involved.
I was going to say, being able to bring together lots of different data sources, we were kind of chatting about that earlier. But really what this drives again is that every company is now considering themselves as a data company. And every company is really excited to be a data company as well. There's so much you can get from this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's in industry, it's in manufacturing, it's in smart cities, smart buildings. I know you've done some work at UCL on that.
Yes,
So, and I'm just trying to think, and then obviously everyone's focusing on driverless cars, but actually effectively maintaining and monitoring fleet. I mean, we've seen stuff about emissions and so on. Well, we can track a lot of that better now. We can understand what's happening to our car. There's more lines of code in a modern car than there are on the International Space Station.
Really?
Yeah. So, you know, if we can tap into that.
You learn something new all the time. There we go.
You're managing a fleet of vehicles, maybe you're a breakdown company. You know, we've been working with a company that's just been bought by a breakdown company, and they're actually doing that thing. So we can actually understand when to fix things, and we can have a really good conversation about how and when to fix things before they become serious.
Yeah, you've got it there. So that's all nice. We've heard about customer scenarios, all this great technology, and we're bringing it all together. But I don't want to say it's easy. The Internet of Things is quite complex, really. I mean, you have so many moving pieces. We've seen in yesterday's talk, we had Alan talking about Stream Analytics. We had people talking about Power BI. All these services have to be kind of pieced together like a jigsaw to be able to create this end-to-end, the Internet of Things.
And also, you may well have, you know, something like a building, like this building was built 10, 15 years ago, and how do we make it smart? We're going to have to put sensors in. And some of those protocols and so on are quite different. So on the one hand, we could look at, say, a hotel, and we could be looking at temperature and so on and so forth. But we need to blend that in with other information about, you know, room occupancies and how the rooms are being cleaned. And ultimately, what we're trying to get out of that is are we running in a hotel that everybody likes to stay in? You know, so it's actually the insight to turn that raw telemetry into, is that a nice room to stay in? And making predictions about what we should do to change it, because there's no point measuring this stuff unless we actually change the experiment, as it were.
Absolutely. But I think if we deep dive into the technical reasons of why Internet of Things might be complex, not only is it that our device has many different pieces that could go wrong, we need to know whether it's internet connected or not, we need to be able to connect to it remotely.
Well, you were having trouble here just as we came on.
I mean,
you aren't able to connect to the wireless here at Microsoft because some fools block the port, so we can't actually do our demo, so you've got it hardwired in.
Luckily, we are hardwired in, so hopefully it will work. But no, absolutely, there's so many different moving pieces. You know, we've got a certain operating system running on here. We're using certain boards. We've programmed the application with a certain language. All pieces that can be swapped and swapped about. So one of the main things I wanted to talk about today really was show you a demo of how we will connect something, but actually using a piece of technology called Azure IoT Hub that's actually able to do that for lots of different operating systems, lots of different languages.
So we can have the penguin in the room. We can
absolutely have the penguin in the room with this one.
We should have a USB port on the bottom of that guy, right?
So let's talk a little bit about the architecture. So I'm going to show you a demo. It's going to be a heavy demo session, hopefully. And all of this is available on GitHub, so do go to that link, github.com. It's on my repo, Amy Kate Nico, and it's called IoT Workshop. If you have this kind of equipment, please do go and build. We'll talk a bit about how you might be able to come and build with us afterwards at the end of the session. So this is a whole sort of end-to-end IoT service architecture. So moving all the way from the device on the left-hand side of the screen, all the way up into the cloud with various services. We've maybe seen the Stream Analytics symbol from yesterday, but also out to visualization. How are we going to visualize this data? So it's always really exciting to kind of see, you know, that whole end-to-end piece. But in this session, I wanted to focus on this piece here. So being able to connect that device. So we've got a Raspberry Pi 2. Unfortunately, it's not a Raspberry Pi 3.
So if we're looking at this board over here, the Raspberry Pi is actually underneath, isn't it?
Yes, So we've got a Raspberry Pi underneath. We've got a Fez hat board, so it's like a daughter board. It's like plug and play. You can easily just pop it on top of the pins. There's no wiring needed. And basically it has all different sensors on it, light, temperature, different coloured lights, stuff like that. But the key thing here is we're actually going to run Windows 10 IoT core. So a very small sort of compact version of Windows 10 that can run on these tiny devices. And actually we're going to look at building a universal Windows application, so UWP app. And we're going to be able to show that can run not only locally on my machine, but it can actually run on this device as well. So,
and then we just leave that running and it'll go and do whatever we asked it to do.
Absolutely. Right. And then we're going to connect it to Azure IoT Hub. So Azure IoT Hub are data ingestion for the Internet of Things, so for devices like this, so that you can start to manage them and stuff like that.
And we're just using Windows as an example here. We could still do the Penguin thing if we'd wanted to, because that runs other operating systems are available.
Other operating systems are available, as not just on the board, but also, you know, inside of Azure IoT Hub as well. So lots of different ways you can pull this together. We're going to show you one way, but we'd love to see what you guys build as well.
Right, let's dig in then.
So let's jump into a demo. So let's close this here. Oh, got screen resolution. So what we're going to look at first actually is the device, if we can. So we have the Raspberry Pi. We've got a board on top of here, and I don't know if you can actually see the screen. We're going to try and get it on there. We're running Windows 10 on there, so you can see on this small sort of HDMI connected screen, we've got an operating system running. It's kind of got my device name, shows the IP address, how it's connected. So this is Windows 10 IoT Core. And that whole operating system is actually running on this Raspberry Pi by the SD card there that you can see on the bottom. So that's our device system. We're going to try and remotely connect to it. So we want to actually remotely connect from Visual Studio to it, so we don't have to worry about connecting it to our system.
They're not actually physically connected at the moment, are they? Just to be clear.
We aren't, no.
That's your display port, that's your power. This is connected to the corporate network here.
Yeah, we're connected to all the plugs down here.
And you're on wireless here.
Absolutely,
right,
yeah.
Okay.
So that's how it's all working. So that's the whole kind of operating system stuff going on. One other thing we're going to have to do, though, is go and have a look at the Azure IoT Hub. So if we go on to...
so this is a standard Azure portal we're in.
This is the Azure portal, yeah. So if we just get rid of that box there we go. And what we can see, we've got lots and lots of different services going on here. But the one I actually want to look at, if you wanted to create an Azure IoT Hub, you go to New, Internet of Things, IoT Hub. And you can see here, you can actually start to create a different IoT hub. Quick note, someone asked the question actually yesterday. There is a free tier. You can get one IoT hub for free per Azure subscription, and you get 8,000 messages per day. So it's great for being able to test and proof of concept with this kind of stuff. And so that's how you create one. Click create, pin it to your dashboard, like all the other services. However, if I click on one I made earlier, so this is my IoT hub in Azure. We can see I've only sort of used a few messages. I only used 4% of my total messages for the day. One of the key things I wanted to kind of talk about here was I have a certain host name, so the place it's going to call off to with my data. And actually with some of the shared policies. So we talked a little bit about IoT Hub being for devices, specifically for IoT scenarios. Well, it's a lot about being able to actually say, well, I'm the IoT Hub owner, so can I make sure that I can have a connection string and keys that allow me to do various things? I mean, if my device is on the table in front of me, normally Internet of Things devices, they could be all over the planet, right? Like they could be anywhere.
Well, and not just over the planet, they could be up there.
I was about to say,
Tim might be using one.
Tim Peake might be using one. We don't know. We don't know. Let us know if you are. And but yeah, no. So they could be literally be anywhere. So being able to remotely talk to these devices is a true, a really really amazing thing. And this is a way that you can securely talk to these devices. So I can say, yes, this device can talk to my Azure subscription with my IoT Hub. So that's all cool. So we have lots of keys, and we also have a connection string here, and we can see it contains like a host name with the key associated. So like all the other kind of stuff on Azure. So now we've got that sorted, I wanted to show you the Device Explorer. We have an application on Windows that's available called the Device Explorer that's built for the Azure IoT Hub so that you can quickly manage, create, configure your devices to connect to it. Now, behind the scenes, it's actually just using the IoT Hub REST APIs. So you can absolutely do everything that this does yourself. Like, you don't have to use this tool.
It's just a quick check to make sure everything's working.
I was going to say, it's a great way to kind of just have a look at what's going on. So if we go to the configuration tab here, what we're going to be able to see is I've actually put my IoT Hub connection string in there. So what we just saw in the portal there with a key. And then you click update and it's able to say, okay, now I'm associating that to you, and it will bring up your key name here. Inside the management tab, I have a couple of devices here that I'm basically trying to say, these devices, I'm okay with them being connected to Azure IoT Hub. And again, they have their own keys, they have their own connection strings. So one of the key things here, we've got TDO_demo as a device, and that's this one here I want to talk to. And what I'm going to do here is actually right-click and copy the connection string for the selected device. And we're going to now dart over to a universal Windows application. So so we're into Visual Studio. As I said, many pieces make this project work. And I have a universal Windows application. So we can see the usual sort of project layout here with universal Windows. So again, it's not just my laptop that can run this, it's my phone, it's all the different Windows devices, so that's great. In mainpage.xaml.cs, I just want to show you a couple of things that are going on in here. So we have connected up, this is actually a GHI electronics board, so we've brought in that package to actually be able to communicate with the sensors. But one of the things I really wanted to show you is actually this connect the dots helper class that we've created, and how I can connect my device via this application to the cloud. And it's all via this device connection string. So it has, again, my host name, but it's also got my device ID, as well as the shared access key they have. So being able to do that sort of handshake to say this is all good, like we can communicate. So if we nip over now to the Connect the Dots helper, so that class that does all the nice, fun, sort of devicey kind of stuff to talk to the cloud, if we scroll down a little bit, what we can see is we're sort of creating a class here, we're getting our local settings from our other device, but what I wanted to show you in here, alongside all the other bits and bobs, is actually how easy it is to kind of call this stuff using the SDKs. So this is using the C# SDK. And you can literally, we've got our device, we've said we have a physical device, we've set that object, and all we have to do is send async our content, which is our data. So you're just passing pieces of data all the time, and by using the SDK, it's really easy to get those, in just a couple of lines of code, really, and also be able to sort of set that debug for if things start to go wrong. One of the other things I was wanting to quickly show you is actually one of the NuGet packages that you'll need to use. So if we scroll down here, one of the main things that drives this is actually this Microsoft Azure Devices client. So that's the SDK, that's how we can start to communicate with this kind of stuff. So
Gotcha.
definitely download that, keep it up to date, etc. This stuff's moving fast. And one final thing we're going to hear, I mentioned we're not connected. We're not connected at all to that, technically to that device, and how we're going to connect is actually over our IP address. So I have my IP address, let me just double check it is the same. It absolutely is. And we're going to actually then say, I want to package up this, I want to pass it down to that device, I want you to run it, and then we'll see.
So you're actually deploying the software over the cloud to that device. So it could be out in the wild somewhere. It could be anywhere.
It could be anywhere. It
Or in space,
It could be in space, absolutely.
Great.
So,
Far above the cloud.
fortunately, we seem to be having a little bit of an error there. So if we quickly try. So, as we said, Internet of Things is complex. So if we can just quickly go into. Let's see if we can get this up and running here.
So you're just going back into your solution, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just in case anything's gone kind of a little bit wrong there. So as we're preparing that, the key thing here is that it will be able to get the data from the device and send it to the cloud and actually see it in real time coming back. And as I said, all of this is actually available on GitHub. So if we go here, in this IoT workshop folder, you'll be able to set everything up. It's got prerequisites. It's got all the downloads you need. We can see the device there, a lovely picture of exactly what we've got going on here, and actually sending you through all those different setup pieces. So
but just to be clear again, super clear on this, we don't have to use any of our stuff to do this.
Absolutely not, no.
IoT Hubs is just a place where we're going to collect data from a device running whatever operating system. We could have written the code that's running on that on any kind of machine. That doesn't matter. What matters is the information that's coming off of it and what we want to push back to it.
Yeah. So let's try this one. So as that tries to deploy it, we'll just double check. But so one of the nice things here is actually being able to say, well, this stuff you can easily connect with just a few lines of code. It can send the data, and then the data starts pinging up into my Azure IoT Hub. And if we actually have a look at my IoT Hub, we can see even just over today, I actually only created this today. I've used sort of 333 messages just to be able to pass those things. So every 2 seconds, I think, it's sending a piece of data, and we're able to say, actually, we can see that that's
So that's going to start to count. Hopefully we come back and check that later, yeah? Everybody remember 338?
So it's just thinking about it there.
So Amy, obviously today's all about DevOps, and we kind of still need to have that in mind when we're doing some of this stuff. We're prototyping boards, we're testing out communications protocols, we're trying to see what's working and what isn't.
Yeah.
So it's really, I think for me, an extension of that. And I think the other thing I like about this is coming from a bit more of an IT background. If you're the dev in the room and I'm the IT, boring old IT guy.
Right.
We all like mucking about with the actual boxes. You know, you get a device out, you instantly get people poring over it. Whereas a developer, of course, you're just sitting in an IDE, Visual Studio, whatever. Yeah, right, okay. Then.
I know, No, what we were saying actually, having it on the DevOps day is quite interesting. We're finding a lot when people come to our workshops that they're not just a developer or they're not just on the IT pro kind of side. It's a bit of everyone that likes to get involved with this kind of stuff, and it's the same thing goes for data.
And we can work out the art of the possible here. Maps in a like a hacked kind of environment is a great way, and we're going to be doing some of that later on. We'll probably come back in the presentation and talk about where you can come and have a go.
Where we can come and try and get it working yourself. Okay.
Well, we have small children doing this, so it's not that difficult.
Oh, no, so the microbit stuff, right? It's kind of abstracted from some of this, but lots of people that we've seen that use the microbit really want to be like, well, how does it work? How does it work?
Yeah. Well, there is that desire, I think, in a technical community to know how things work. I mean, that's why we're all interested in, you know, the Tim Peaks of this world, or the Hadron Collider, or the new Tensor board coming out from Google today, whatever it happens to be. Yeah. You know, we're all kind of genuinely interested in that.
Absolutely.
that stuff. So this is all cooking now then?
So it is we're getting some sort of device drivers, like I was saying, there's lots of different pieces that make this kind of stuff up, but hopefully what we should start to see there is some light and sensor temperatures. So
so
you can see we've got temperature and light, so that line there is coming from the board, and actually the next one where it says message sent is what's being sent to my
So if you cover that,
IoT hub.
if you put your paw over that, we're going to get the light dropping.
Yes, so
aren't we?
if we keep an eye on those temperature and I actually cover up this light option here, we can see we've gone from 85 to sort of 34. Thank you very much. Many hands make light work here.
I'm trying to, can I? No, it's not going to zoom for me. It's not talking to me today.
No, so, but what we can see, there we go.
Let's go down a bit. Whoop, sorry, folks.
It's okay, so
Too
we're
handy
on,
confusing.
for light there, you see we're on 39.61. I'm actually covering the light sensor. If I take my finger off there, we're going to
Whoa,
see it
jumped.
immediately goes back up to
Yeah.
85. So we are looking in real time, this is happening. And we're actually seeing that on the screen as well, which is very
we've got a little
nice.
display on there. Right, okay. So we have got data, these two are communicating with each other and it's bouncing off of our hub thing.
Absolutely.
In Azure. Yeah,
So if we
great.
go to our device explorer as well though, we can actually go into here
And see this,
yep, so if we just clear there and click monitor, what we should be able to see is some events start to come up there. So we'll be able to see this is actually going directly to the IoT hub. So we're seeing it sending it from our application and we're receiving it into our IoT hub. So the device explorer is great for that. It's being able to just say, okay, is it all working? Is the data being sent there?
Yeah, okay. So this all gets cached by the event hub and then we can decide what to do with it afterwards.
Absolutely. The event hub can have actually hot and cold paths, so it can actually store up some of that data, all those messages, but really it's great for being able to pass it maybe straight to Stream Analytics. It is actually one of the inputs onto that service.
And of course we're going to have many hundreds or even thousands or tens of thousands of these devices in we're not going to just have one cow, right?
No, we're not.
We're not going to get very far with making cows if you've only got one cow.
So if we just refresh
It's
this,
gone
I
up.
actually think it's gone up already, but we'll just
No,
double check.
it said 338. It was 338. It said 372.
Was it? Yeah. So we are seeing as well on the portal how many messages we're using. So do keep an eye on that. We have had it at times in hackathons where we've actually maxed it
429.
out.
So
Brilliant.
it's romping away now. So we're now passing data into Azure, and then obviously if we sort of went in our DeLorean and went back to yesterday, we would see Alan talking about how we can ingest that data, and then we could have had a listen to the Power BI sessions, and then we can maybe real-time connect a dashboard to these, and we can see what the temperature and lights are. And if we had these around our building, we've now got some sense of what's happening in the building.
Absolutely. So there we go. Technically, we have a device sitting here connecting to the cloud via IoT Hub, and from there, we're able to do whatever we would like with this data. So it's actually really light in here because of all the cameras. So normally that value is a lot lower than that. So I'm glad it did. It's really good for the changing of the thing. So if we net back here. So this is technically what we built, right? So we just built that piece by using a Universal Windows app, and we connected it to one service in Azure.
Sweet.
Nice one. So you can absolutely go and get that from GitHub. Please do. Please go and use it. Give me feedback. I'd love to hear it.
And just to put this into context, Raspberry Pi, not the most expensive device in the world, and that little it's called a Fez Hat, is the name of the board, but it's made by GHR.
Yes, yeah, it is.
And we would, what was that? I don't know, 5 or 10 is it, sort of thing?
Yeah, I don't think it's too bad. One of the nice things about it is it's less of wires and more, let's see how we can actually get this data out of this device.
But of course the thing there is that that's a prototype device. We'd put on whatever sensors we wanted, like humidity or what have you. And then we'd probably go and get a load of those made, and that would be our solution. So if it's an automotive car thing, plug into the car and get some stuff. And then we'd go and make lots of those. So we're almost prototyping the device design as a piece of industrial design, if you will. And then just working out what we might do with it on that kind of board, right?
Absolutely, yeah, spot on. So we've got all of that nicely connected. So I did want to also show, though, that we have, I understand not everyone will have all these specific pieces, but we still want you guys to go and use this kind of stuff. So, we've actually created a lab in there. It's on GitHub, but it's on my GitHub again. It's called IoT Hero Challenge, and it actually means you don't need a device. No device, no worries. Don't worry about it.
So you spoofed a device in software?
Yeah, so there's just a simulated device, but you know how we said we built a Universal Windows application? Well, technically, it could run on a Pi, it could run on a device. The key thing is that it's just going to run on your local machine, and it's going to spoof a bit of data similar to that light and temperature kind of data. but it will allow you to look at the whole story as well, from the device there all the way over to that Power BI piece, and it takes you through that kind of real-time scenario,
Fantastic.
which is really nice.
Absolutely.
So I would love people to go and use that as well.
Okay, shameless plug over. Moving
I
on.
know, yeah.
I feel like Jonathan Ross here sitting. My new book is out, the IoT Hero Challenge.
The IoT Hero Challenge. But yeah, so it's over to you guys. I want you guys to build. Please do go and have a look at all these different links, and just go and try them out. Really, go and have an investigation around what is Azure IoT Hub.
Yeah. So, and I think obviously we've got a bit of time. It's probably worth some of the conversations we've been having. So I mentioned the breakdown company looking at cars. I've had Coffee House coming in, and they're running a franchise model. So you've got this big piece of industrial equipment, which belongs to the company, not the franchisee. They want to make sure it's okay and so on. So they're everywhere. Coffee shops are everywhere in this country. We've come back to where we were many years ago, and we've got coffee shops everywhere. So we want to be able to make sure they're okay and send engineers out again.
Yeah.
Photocopying company, again, I can't name who they are because until they sign on the line for a case study, it's a little bit tricky. But we're seeing all sorts of unusual devices, and it might seem a bit bizarre to have an internet-connected fridge, but hey, if you're in the throes of chill chain kind of like supply logistics, in a freezer isn't where it is, and that means all the food inside it could potentially have to be thrown away, or we have to worry about it, and it's big money if it's not there. So getting that right and getting the guy out to fix that, or maybe the other thing you talked about earlier, where that thing would be like something we could prod to go and do something. What's the first thing we do when we see a device not working, Amy?
Turn it off and on again.
Well, let's just
That'll
go
be one of the probably most used commands.
Send the reset button. I came home last night, my wife's saying, damn router's not working. Well, I'll just soft reset it, because I know it's IP address. I can see it, but it's not seeing the internet. Well, just bounce it. Well, that saves a guy getting in a car, right? I mean, it's stating the obvious, but...
These devices, right, might be in places that humans don't want to go as well. Like, it could be in dangerous places and stuff like that. And being able to get measurements around that kind of stuff so that we can understand what's going on
they can be hard.
is what we want to know. But actually, being able to remotely talk to that device is really the key message there. So we saw in that demo, we were sending data to the cloud and we saw it coming in. Actually, you can send data back down to that device as well.
I think the other scenario as well that we perhaps haven't touched on is a slightly more complicated environment. If we took all this building, we're not going to necessarily connect all the sensors in this building directly to an IoT hub. We might have some sort of gateway, a box sitting in here, because a lot of these devices might not be capable of, they haven't got Ethernet ports in the back of them. So we might have a central box. Now that could be a Windows device, it could be running any old operating system, and that might collate this data and maybe make real-time decisions. Then we have the feed going up to hubs from that. So if you look at a hotel thing, we might have a feed from each hotel, but it's actually that in itself is collecting data from each of the rooms in the hotel, and then the hotel chain has then got this left to right view about everything that you want to do.
Well, there's actually a whole piece of that in IoT Hub. It's quite new, the gateway piece. So being able to, if you have older protocols, older devices, or maybe just devices that are quite low powered and cannot internet connect themselves.
So how does that play out then? So where does the gateway service? Does it run remote from the cloud, or does that run in the cloud as well?
So it's all around the SDK for that as well. So if people want to go, they can go and find the SDK there, and it'll tell you a little bit more about that piece. It's very, very new.
Right. So that's okay. It's okay. I'm not going to put you on the spot. So, but what we can do is obviously that device, we can make it so that it can be the sensor for everything else and round everything up.
Absolutely. I have one quick link at the bottom here around Azure IoT Suite as well. So
what's that?
Well, I was going to say there's sometimes some kind of confusion around IoT Hub, IoT Suite. Well, what's IoT Suite for? So IoT Hub is one service in Azure where you can remotely connect and send data, an Event Hub-esque kind of data ingestion, but actually specifically for devices. IoT Suite is that whole end-to-end piece, and it actually gives you a really nice template, like lots of template solutions for being able to tweak maybe a remote monitoring or predictive maintenance, for example. Actually tweak those solutions to your scenario and see things moving very quickly. I can show you that really quickly now if we want to. We've got a little bit of time, so
let's have a look at this thing.
Always handy.
Extra credit for going off-piste at the...
So if you literally just go to AzureIoTSuite.com, it will log you in. So it's logged me in here with my Azure account. and actually you can start to provision solutions. So I have a quick sort of Tech Days Online demo here,
like
just in case, and be able to actually launch that. So this is a remote monitoring solution, but actually if we click on new solution here, they have predictive maintenance as well. So being able to, that as with the lift scenario that we're talking about, as with the particle accelerator one really as well. You know, it's very much remote monitoring and predictive maintenance. But one of the nice things that this does, if we go back here, just load in my solutions, it will start to, if you click set up, it will use your Azure subscription. It will put all of the services it needs to build this demo into a resource group, so you can go and have a look at them, and it's really easy to go and see what's in there.
Just going to stop you there briefly. If you haven't seen a resource group in Azure, it's just like a logical container. So all the assets that and services, so if you need a database, if you need some VMs, heaven forbid, whatever it is that you need, all gets put in this one bucket. So when you're done with it, you can just throw the resource group away, or if you're smart, you work out a script how to make it again, and then we get into the stuff that we've been hearing about today. Let's just pop up a resource group that does this particular thing. So we've got this kind of template.
It's all the different pieces in Azure, isn't it? But
I know, but we talk about Azure Resource Manager, and I think we're going to hear that again today quite a lot. So I just wanted to check
really interesting stuff. So you just tell it what region you want it to go into, and it also, there's lots around this pre-configured solution. So originally people were like, oh, it feels a little bit black box, and I thought exactly the same thing, to be honest. But actually there's a whole GitHub where you can go in, have a look at the code, see how it's built, and to be honest, completely rip it to pieces if you wanted to, and just use the bits you need. So if we actually launch that, I've got it launched over here. This is what comes up. So this is the Azure IoT Suite monitoring solution. And at the moment, it's just got some sample devices that are giving us some sample data, temperature and humidity.
If I'm honest with you, this looks suspiciously like Power BI.
So it is lots of different sort of dashboarding kind of graphics, and also some kind of alarm history and stuff like that. But it's all, again, all around the data, right, about how you interpret it. Yeah,
and you'd set those alarm conditions. You know, so if it gets dark in here, we send off an alarm because it needs to be bright, or it's light and it should be dark, whatever it happens to be, like a burglar alarm situation. The lights are supposed to be out now. Someone's turned the lights on. Hello, I'm not at home. What's going on?
So maybe that dashboarding piece, right, is that bit on the right-hand side of the slide with all the sort of visualization piece. All the devices down here in the next tab, so we've got 4 sample running devices. You can actually, there's a whole document DB service running behind this as well. There's actually holding all the metadata for each of these sample devices.
That's where you store your JSON.
That's where you store your JSON.
Okay, it's like, think MongoDB without mucking about all of those VMs. It's just a service. Just chuck your JSON in there and you're all good.
And so in this kind of idea, right, it would work perfectly, because really not every device might have a certain, you know, field that you want to put in there. You might just want to give a little bit of data about that device.
We can have a temperature sensor over here, humidity over there, light sensor over here, so the other fields are going to be blank, so we use a JSON notation for.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So lots of sample devices running there. You can actually get rid of them, you can delete them out and add your own devices in. So you can click on this Add Device button at the bottom.
And then you configure that connection.
And you can configure either this real device, you can configure another simulated device, and you simply basically just put in a little bit of information about it. It generates these keys. Where have we seen these IDs and keys before? For Azure IoT Hub. So that's how that piece kind of fits in nicely.
Wow, even a sim. Sweet.
Yeah, there's honestly all sorts in here, and it changes all the time. There's one nice little piece around rules. So we talked about being able to send communications back to the device. Well, we're saying here, what if the temperature or humidity was too high? We want to send a command back to the device to turn it on, turn it off, do anything really that we want to do there.
So we can turn any little room in the world into an intensive care unit where we have patient monitoring and a bleep and central control rooms. People could be anywhere. You know? Yeah,
and we can, again, probably see how this piece might fit into one of those other icons that we saw on the diagrams. That's that stream analytics piece. Being able to actually check each piece of data, or maybe a window in of data, so every 10 seconds, and say, is the temperature above that? Is the temperature below that? If it stayed there for 5 seconds, maybe we need to alert someone about that. So that's where all these rules come into place around that kind of T-SQL kind of code. And finally, some actions. So that piece around, so we've had visualizations, we've had connecting those devices, we've had those rules coming from Stream Analytics. We've also got actions where we can say, okay, go and raise an alarm or send a message back to that device. So that end-to-end piece. And a lot of people say the first step in Internet of Things is connecting these and having the data streaming through and maybe having it straight into a web dashboard.
Yep.
The next piece might be to sort of evaluate using Stream Analytics, so maybe do some kind of aggregation across that data. And maybe that more advanced step right at the end would be that piece to actually send something back to the device, a complete automation sort of thing.
And I think there's a longer view of trends, maybe coming up with a predictive model. I know you love playing with those as well. And then we can actually build that into some alerting rules. So when we see this behaviour, we know that's going to happen. So that's where we get into the prediction kind of play as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Amy. I think we should do a shameless plug in the last couple of minutes we got going, because it's one thing for us grown-ups to learn this stuff, and we're both doing pretty well out of information technology. Life's been good to us, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But what if you were just starting on that journey? What if you're 11 or 12 years old, and we want to get if we want to develop a space industry in this country, for example, how are we going to do that if we haven't got the people to do that work?
Absolutely. So
we've got a plan.
I was going to say, we do have this fantastic nano satellite project. You might have seen it in some of the adverts that are happening at Tech Days Online. And it's a great place for children to get really excited about technology, and not just sort of consuming that technology, not just opening apps on their phone, but understanding how that technology is built and maybe building it themselves as well. So we have a great piece around sort of being able to put these microbits and start doing scientific experiments and stuff like that.
Again, I don't guess everybody's heard of a microbit. I mean, what we take for granted, other people maybe not aware of. So what is a microbit?
So a microbit is a tiny little computer.
Do you bring one with you?
I don't. It's in my bag over there though. Like, so tiny microbit there is a tiny little computer, very powerful, and actually really easy for children to actually program it. So they can use Touch Develop or an online coding editor to actually kind of have a look at those different pieces of technology. So, you know, the microbit, the nano satellite, all this great stuff.
Yep.
Please do support this community project. But one of the nice things is we actually have an event, so Azure Craft, which is an event happening on the 3rd and 4th of June. It's all about this kind of stuff. If you want to be a proctor, if you want to lead this kind of thing in your own communities and schools, we'd love you guys to get involved and also contribute code. It's a whole open source project around this, and it heavily relies right on the Internet of Things. Yeah,
I mean, so the microbit essentially is, and we're going to go and send people looking for one. I'm sure there's one lying around here somewhere. So it's us on software design. We compile it on the cloud.
Absolutely.
Devices made by Samsung.
Yeah.
The whole program put together by the BBC, the son of the BBC Micro that I kind of grew up on.
Oh right, yeah.
Back in the day, and my respect for teachers went up immensely. We were at Duxford Imperial War Museum just before Christmas last year, you know, and we took these classes of 60 kids, and by the end of about 20 minutes, they've got programs running. They're playing rock, paper, scissors. They understand basic programming concepts. And not everybody's going to go and do that in life, but let's at least expose people to the art of the possible. Some people it's going to click, I want to do that thing.
Absolutely.
Other people, maybe not. But we should at least give people the opportunity to understand what this technology is. Because as I say, it's how we're going to make Britain great again. And it's just so much fun to do.
It's fantastic. It's such a good project, and kids get a lot out of it as well. But no, that event has a whole lot of workshops. So we're actually going to run an IoT workshop where we'll build this kind of stuff. So if you want, please do come along. I'd love to see you there. And it'd be great to kind of, you know, have a piece of that going on. We actually have been past the microbit. Wow, what a team! What a team going on here.
So it's
we don't have very long, so yeah.
No, it's fine. So what you need to know is, and hopefully we've got that here. This thing here. On the back of this, there are just a 9x9, sorry, 5x5. I can't count now. LEDs, and as soon as you connect this thing in and start running a touch develop up. I mean, we're not going to do it quite live now, but you've got buttons on here, you've got pins you can connect, you can put a board on the back of it. And so it's got BBC on the back. We've got a couple of buttons here so you can kind of play Space Invaders on it or what have you. It's just immense fun.
There's a lot you can do with it.
And even when we get it in front of grown-ups, like the MVPs who are helping us with this show,
Yes,
they
yeah.
absolutely love it. We were doing some coding the other week, and they were all over it like a rush. It appeals to all ages, and I think if we're talking about DevOps, it's also about the fact that we can get people together to come and understand each other's perspective. And if we're mucking about on these, some of the skills that we need to learn come to light when you start mucking about with this. Well, I've got this device, I want to do that with it, I want to build a guitar, I want to make a guitar or whatever it is I want to do, or a spaceship or a rocket car, then it's absolutely fantastic. So, come along the 3rd and 4th of June. We're going to change gears yet again now. The device is going to get slightly bigger. We're going mobile, and we're going to be talking Xamarin with Gary Whitaker.